So I rushed through that, this is brilliant. Right, Alan, can we get you up here now? As soon as we get you on to sort you out with the
We're having
presentation.
network issues. Internet issues. Yeah. I'll see if this thing's connected still.
Clicker? Yeah. Well, basically click on left and right, and there you go.
Good morning. So, I'm Alan O'Donoghue, but I prefer people to, if you want to get in touch with me, whether you're a techno teacher on Twitter, it's the easiest way, because just email's just the past. So, talking about the past, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got here. You can probably tell by my accent, I'm Irish. I grew up in Ireland, and my dad bought a field, and he built a house in the field, and we lived in that field, and then we moved to England, and it was like totally different when we moved to England. My first day in school, we had these in the classroom in 1983, the 11th of May, I remember. And I got so excited because I'd seen things like these on television, and I said to the teacher, when do we get to use these? And the teacher said, well, they've only just arrived and we haven't quite figured out what to do with them yet. But if you want to come in a break or lunch, you can figure out what to do with them. So that's what I did. And there was a book that came with them, and I started on page 1, and I worked my way through all the pages in the book, and by the end of it, I said to the teacher, what do I do next? And the teacher still didn't know what to do. So at the same time, my friends were all, this is in the 80s, my friends were all obsessed about playing games, where I was more interested in what this could do. And I just loved the idea that when you switched it on, and you have to bear in mind, I'm 42, so when I was 11 years old, we had things on TV like Space 1999, where people didn't drive cars, everybody moved around with jetpacks strapped to their back. So to give an 11-year-old something like this that sort of said, yes, master, give me your command, it was really, really empowering. So that's what I did. I commanded it to do all sorts of things. So this is and I didn't have a clue what I was doing at first, but I pretended that I did. So I sat down and I typed all of this in, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And eventually I rebuked myself to realise what was happening. Now, my parents couldn't afford one of those because at the time, £400 in 1983, well, you could buy a house with that amount of money. So I had to campaign for one of these. And I managed to get the 48k one. And boy, it felt like I had the biggest car in town because mine was the 48k, not the 16k. And you got all these games with it, like horoscope skiing and all those kind of things. But the most fun was actually getting these kind of magazines and spending ages just typing all these programs in. I realise now I was a bit misled because when you bought these magazines, they had all these amazing pictures of all the things that the game was going to do. But when you actually typed it in, it was just like a little block that moved around on the screen, so you had to use your imagination. By the way, I found this magazine recently tucked away in the attic. Sophie Sharp of Preston, Lancashire, sent in that computer program. And this started an interesting discussion on Twitter. And saying, so we know who Sophie Sharp is? And we actually managed to find who Sophie Sharp is. She's not called Sophie, she's called Rebecca, but that's another story. I'll tell you another time. But, and then the other thing, I went on a trip down memory lane a couple of weeks ago, and when I found this magazine buried away, and there was a Pen Friends page, and I remember I had Pen Friends. I remember writing to these people, not these ones, because it was from a different magazine. And I wonder if we'd get away with this today. So Rachel, she lives at 4 Highview, Fennerton, Devon, postcode EX14 0EG. She's 12 years old, and she'd like to correspond with somebody who also owns a 48k Spectrum. I can't imagine they'd get away with that nowadays. Just how times have changed. So, one of the things, thinking back to when I was doing this at school, all my friends were outside playing football and enjoying the sun and chasing after girls. And that's what I should have been doing. Meanwhile, I was in a classroom typing all these programs in, and I finished the book, the BBC Basic Manual, and I saw all these things in the back, all about networking. So I went into Kennedy Electronics, which is in Preston, and I bought 2 of these domino connectors, they were called, and I bought a lot of wires, and I spent a few lunchtimes, and I managed to get one computer at one end of the room to talk to one computer at the other end of the room. And it was amazing. I could type in Alan is ace, and it would say Alan is ace on the other screen at the same time. I mean, this is before the internet and all those kind of things. So that's how I spent my dinner times. So when I was at school, I kept saying to the teachers, how do I find out more? What can I do? And they kept shrugging their shoulders. And I saw an advert in my local shop for Preston Atari computer enthusiasts. It was called Pace. And there was a bunch of people who, like the age that I am now, and they bought these Atari computers. And I came along with my Spectrum, and they laughed at me because they said, "That's not a computer."
I was one of them.
Anthony laughed at me. So I went home and I was telling my mum about this, and she was saying, like, it sounds like you're having a great time. I said, yeah, you should come next time. It's my turn to do a talk about something. I said, you can get to meet Arthur and Roland and Leslie. She said, these are the boys who've got funny names. I said, no, they're not boys. These are like men with beards and sandals and stuff. And she got a bit worried, so she came to the next meeting just to check, but everything was all fine. We were all talking about computer games and all that kind of thing. And I went there for, I don't know when I stopped. Eventually, about 17 or 18 or something. So let's go into the future. So I'm now a teacher at Our Lady's Catholic High School. I've been there, I went there as a pupil when I got the BBC Micro and all that. And I've been teaching there since the year 2000. And I'm very proud of the school. My kids have been to that school, and I love it. So a couple of years ago, 2012, so I'm the principal teacher of ICT. So I lead the ICT department in the school, a team of teachers who teach it, and some of them are non-specialists. So we have like somebody who teaches textiles but teaches ICT as well. And about 2 years ago, deputy head of my school said to me, Alan, I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is, because of this EBAC thing that's coming in, we want our school to be seen as academic and all that, we're not going to have ICT compulsory for everybody, in future. And I started to think, job security. He said, but don't worry, because those children who, so we want some children to study languages, but those children who can study languages, they'll still do ICT. The ones who go to college to do like motor vehicle engineering and hairdressing and beauty, because ICT is really important and they need to be able to use it. So I thought, I'm going to have to come up with a better plan. So at that point, I've been on my trip down memory lane and started thinking, what happened about computing? And I thought, maybe I need to go and investigate what computing is as an antidote to this. Now at the same time, there was a pupil in my class, and I'll just call him Jonathan. It was parents' evening, and his parents sat down in front of me, and they said, so tell us about Jonathan. I said, well, Jonathan's doing really well. He's in year 8, and they knew that. They said, we know he's in year 8, he's our son. So tell us about how he's doing. So I said, well, we've just done some tests recently in class. We did 3, and he got the top marks in the class on those. All his homeworks are done on time, really, really quiet, and it's fine, nothing to worry about. The parents were really quiet, waiting for something, and the mum said, have you not heard about what's happened? Has he not told you? And I said, no. She said, about what's happened online, PayPal and all of that. And I thought, oh no. So I'd heard that there was a child in school who had basically got hold of like mum's credit card details and spent thousands and thousands of pounds. And I thought, oh, this is him. So she said, look, and she pulled out this piece of paper, and it was a PayPal statement, but it was showing a balance of £12,000. And she said, that's last year. This year it looks like he's going to have made £18,000. We just don't feel he's getting a lot out of his ICT lessons. And I thought, She says, look, and she showed me an example of something he'd been doing. I said, well, how does he do this? Well, he's taught himself lots of different programming languages, and his latest hobby is PHP. What he's done is he's created this site that people subscribe to every month. They pay £30 for gold or £50 a month for the platinum. What can you do to help him? And I wasn't able to give her an answer, so I kept thinking, well, I'll contact the university. I've got somebody I know who does this kind of stuff, and I really didn't know what to do. I was facing a conundrum there. So I took this to a local I started hanging out with geeks. I started coming to things. This was about 2011, so I came to one of your conferences, and I showed this to a few people, and straight away somebody looked at it and went, "Ooh, the SQL injection vulnerability there, you know. Basically, you need to get rid of that. That's appalling." I said, "Oh no, I haven't done this. This is a 12-year-old child I teach." And they said, "Right, we can give him a job straight away. We can do stuff like that." Okay, you can tell he's self-educated, you know, because he's made lots of mistakes. And I said, "Well, yeah, I agree with you, you know." So all these, there was other examples of things like this where the children were learning more than I could do or help them with. And then I started thinking, computing's what I need to teach, you know? We've got all these great role models. Oh, look, there's a big C Micro there on the shelf. These are our role models for computing. So I thought, I'll go to W.H. Smith, I'll get a book. So here's all the computing books in W.H. Smith. So I can learn Word, PowerPoint. They had PowerPoint for Dummies. Is it? It's PowerPoint for Dummies. And they weren't really the kind of book. In fact, I found this one that says how to do just about anything on a computer. This is the one. Shows how you can take photographs with a computer, how you can contact people around the world using a computer, how you can sell things, everything apart from how to program it. So I started introducing. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. We started teaching children how to develop games using Scratch. About 3 years ago, I thought I'm going to have to learn a serious programming language, not Sinclair Basic or BBC. So I looked at quite a lot of programming language, and the last one I ended up with is Python, and that was the one. And since then, I've written materials which I've shared online. I've done podcasts, and now I spend a lot of time going around showing the teachers not how to program, but how to teach programming, which is a lot different. This is an example of something a Year 7 child didn't know. You can't read it very well, but it's a quiz where it asks them some questions. They give their answer to the question, then it gives them some feedback based on whether they got the answer right or wrong. And because it's an 11-year-old, it says things like, "You're rubbish at this quiz, aren't you?" You know. So they write their own, they design their own programs and do all that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to make computing. I'm going to show you. If I go back a few slides. This, look. In the year 2007, our school was designated as a maths and computing specialist school. Well, we weren't teaching computing. Well, we are now. And, so we've lost
connectivity.
Do you want to do something like that, or shall I just go back?
You broke the Wi-Fi.
Now I realise teachers often at this conference are in a minority, so I know I'm not talking to an audience full of teachers, and you're the people who help and support teachers to do their job properly, and you're the people who sometimes silently work in the background, and when everything's working great, people forget that you're there. But when it doesn't work, it's like, "Hey, come and sort this printer out." "Oh, you checked it's actually switched on?" "Oh, right, okay." "Come on, make it work. It's your job." I'm the teacher. You're here to make me look good. Come on. Okay. Do we have any teachers in the audience? See? His hand up, didn't shout out. Well done. Okay. Well trained. That's okay, I was on the right slide. Oh no. Okay. So, I decided we only have 1 hour a week in our ICT lessons, and I wanted to do much more than that. And there was parents and people asking me questions about programming, and so we started running events outside of school. So we started running these evenings where parents, families came along together. And so, for example, this was a girl who was in Year 7. There's a boy who was in my GCSE computing class. She brought her grandparents along, and they were like, you've heard of hackathons. So this is like a hack evening instead. So they all worked together, and people were saying this was great, and I was writing blogs about it, and other people started copying and running them in their schools around the country. And then I had this idea, do you know what we really need to do? We need to change the curriculum in schools. We need to make it less about teaching people how to send an email, and more about actually use computers to do really powerful stuff.
if I could only get in touch with a big organisation like the BBC, that would be so easy. So, is somebody complaining about the audio? Yeah, it's not Simon Walters by any chance, is it?
No, he's on holiday.
Yeah.
Oh, is he? Okay. He'll still be complaining about the audio quality. So, I went to this event at BBC Media City, and I thought, if I can get the BBC on board, this would be brilliant. So I came up with this idea, but the plan was to tell them it already existed. Because I thought, if I've got an idea about something, nobody's going to believe that it can actually happen. So my idea was BBC Code Lab. So there was a couple of Linux friends of mine, Linux gurus, and we were there, and we kind of came up with this plan, which was, we'd tell everybody this thing was going to happen next year. It's called BBC Code Lab. So I did a talk called BBC Code Lab, and there was one